Okay. I don't know who's going to see this, but I am continuing off of the field mechanics training. Now, what is field mechanics? I'm gonna actually see if this is like working. And if somebody's seeing this on YouTube or something, this is done in a private Facebook group, so I might be bouncing around to different content. Maybe not, I don't know. We'll see. So if you don't like those types of lives, then don't watch this. Okay, cool. It's working. Cool. Okay. So, if you're like stopping by in this and you like haven't seen me in like years, well, hi. I am doing content in this group again when I want to create content. So I don't know if anybody's gonna watch this, and it seemed like some of you were watching this, and I had some people reach out to me, so we're gonna go with yes and like that. Okay, so okay, so what I'm talking about is field mechanics, and what that is, and I don't mean to be flicking anybody off. I'm sorry. I don't want to do that. I apologize or repent. Is I was like, oh crap. Is I can't believe I just did that. Oh well. Okay, so field mechanics is basically like, you know, like what does the digital space feel like energetically? Now, what does that mean? That means like when you go to like actually make some sales and you're feeling into like who's, you know, like who's looking at your stuff, who's wanting to buy from you, what is it feeling like? What is the field itself feeling like? That's like, and you're looking at, well, how do I get more people to buy? How do I get more people to is the person who texted me, I see you, to how do you get like buyers? How do you get buyers? That's what field mechanics is, okay, in a nutshell. And it's basically like for those people who are like more spiritually inclined or intuitively inclined, who are like wanting to know, especially if you were active back in 2016, 2018, or you're just somebody really spiritual now, or you're somebody who's like wanting to understand how the field works spiritually because you're into manifestation and mindset. This is for you, okay? So, and some of you may be like, manifestation doesn't work the same way as it did before. Yes, it does. It's just more like there's different concepts and layers to it. And so, yeah. Okay. So here we go. Okay. So we're talking about the algorithm. And a lot of you have been complaining in your own mind or publicly about how the algorithm, I heard this best explained by a woman I dearly respect and adore. She said something like, the algorithm can feel like a humiliation ritual. And I haven't really had that experience because I was off the field for so long that I came back and I was like, I kind of knew that it was going to feel like that. But I have seen how it could definitely come across that way, especially for, you know, high 6-7 figure earners who are used to making their money on the field. And if you're wanting to work more on this, just send me a DM, and I'm taking on one-on-one clients like right now. Okay, so with that being said, let's say, and you're like, well, how does this help me? Real quick, side note. How does this help you? If you are somebody who is trying to get clients online, this can help you. Okay, and especially if you're a coach, someone who's spiritually inclined, I already said all that. Okay, so so you're looking at the algorithm and you're like, I had some conversations with some spiritual chicks in the past week or two who were talking about how like the algorithm changed over the past 4 or 5 years and how it literally like started responding differently, and how therefore it felt as though your results were having different, you know, was responding differently. And what was going on with your mindset and your own energetics is that you were going through your own, I don't want to say evolution because it's so like cliche, but you were going through your own growth spurts. And what you need to do is you need to identify what was going on with you when this shift happened, for starters, and to figure out like, why was it, if your income didn't change, then it's not that big of a deal. But if your income did change, usually it changed because some sort of traffic source took a hit, or something happened that made your systems, your structures in your business change. So let's look at the algorithm itself. Okay. So the algorithm itself, if you're like, the first thing that I would say to someone is like, why don't you just like ask yourself, what do you think the algorithm is doing in regards to you? Do you think you guys are on good terms? Why or why not? These are questions you need to ask yourself. Like, ask yourself these questions. At the same time, what you also need to recognize is that the algorithm itself is simply a mirror of who you are and your own identity. And I talked about it in the previous video about fragmentation and how basically your energy splits. And if your energy is split and you're focusing a lot on, I don't know if I said this in the last video, but if your energy is split, it literally shows up in the algorithm as split energy, and therefore it reflects back to you as split, and it doesn't give you the kind of feedback that you actually want. That's maybe why some of you are having like higher, like viral posts and then nothing, and you're wondering what is going on. Some of you have figured out consciously or unconsciously how to like be in that place where it's matching. Now, there's actually more so than not this multi-seven figure earners there, and I talked about this in the previous video. They're having results come in not based upon what their social media looks like, but because of the conversations that they're having and the people that are watching. Now, those metrics are going to look different compared to somebody who's going viral. And we've seen it time and time again for like several years that virality doesn't mean money and money doesn't mean virality. It's based on, because sales are totally different than virality. You can make a ton of money and be seen in front of a small group of people, or you can make, have your videos and content in front of large amounts of people and be making very little. And you can also be somebody who's, dramatically increase their traffic, but the income doesn't change. And that's based because your money mindset is not attached to how much traffic you bring in. Your money mindset and your money vibe is attached to who do you feel like, what is your capacity to bring that into manifestation. So with the algorithm, it is a mirror of you. And if you're finding yourself checking your stats a lot, that's a clue that what you're doing is you're being so impacted by the tech, like all the tech and all the stuff on social media, that there's a part of you that's like getting fragmented and overwhelmed by it. So therefore you're starting to approach the algorithm. Like imagine like you're coming up to it and you're getting ready to post, or you post, but your energy, and this is where the energetics come into play. Your energy is affected by, you're letting your energy be affected by the masses versus you standing fully in your power. And so there's this it fragments. And so there's a part of you that's kind of like, I don't know if this is really going to work, or I don't know if the stats are going to come back the way I want it, or I don't know if this is stupid, or I don't know if this is going to work, or I don't know this, or I don't know that, blah, or this is going to be a humiliation ritual. And so your energy fragments and the algorithm spits you back out. That's why a lot of people who they're like multi 6-7 figure earners, they're having conversations in the DMs or, in Facebook groups or LinkedIn, wherever it is, that doesn't have to do with virality, but they're getting multi 6-7 figure clients, or, multi 5 figure clients, whatever it is. So it's not based upon it's not based upon the algorithm itself, but it's based upon what your energy is. So there's, your energy will always attract what I'm sorry. I'm for a really long walk and I drink a lot of water. Your energy will always dictate what you attract, right? And so there was this other part where, so again, the algorithm is a mirror. And what's going on when your energy is split? When your energy is split, there's something in you that is allowing the masses to affect your energy so that you don't feel, so, I don't want to say so you don't feel, so that you don't hold that level of power and authority. Because if you hold that level of power and authority, like the masses are going to literally be like, you know, in that movie Ocean's 11, I think it's Ocean's 11, where the like, it's a really weird scene. It's like George Clooney is standing there and like thousands of people like turn all at once and look at the guy or look in the opposite direction or whatever it is. It's like you can grab massive amounts of people's attention very quickly if you're fully in your energy. And if your nervous system is like, no, I can't handle that, then it's going to reject that. And there's going to be a fragmentation of like, I don't want to like hold this amount of energy. So I'm going to purposely, subconsciously fragment it before I actually execute. So you want to look at like, what are the variables? Like once you get into positioning yourself online, when you actually get into that place where you're about to approach the algorithm, are you afraid of the algorithm mirroring that identity that you are, that you know in your body and in your heart and your soul, that is your true identity? And if that true identity was fully online, what would it manifest? And if you would say it would manifest, you know, thousands and thousands of people looking at me, thousands and thousands of dollars, whatever it is, then you're going to possibly reflect back, I'm not ready for that. And that's okay. It's just the awareness of those things so you can start to actually get into alignment. My personal thought about this whole thing is like, and this is another piece to this, commenting and actually getting in, like having conversations and engaging in the DMs and comments and groups and all of those things is actually more potent right now than trying to post so that you can be seen. Now, I'm not saying don't post, but I'm saying like having the conversations and really engaging with people is actually building your identity more than posting. Now, I want to say that again, posting is very important. However, again, engagement is. Why? Because when you're in the field engaging, you are embodying your identity as that person. If you're just, you know, lightly, casually talking to people in your DMs and you're not really getting out there and making comments and stuff like that, it can not only, I don't want to say dilute your identity, but it can minimize your identity energetically on the field. And therefore it will reflect back to you when you go to post. You're also like aware of the magnitude of what that can actually do to your nervous system. There's a lot of talk about this nervous system regulation stuff. And I have seen numerous posts and people talk about how virality wrecks your nervous system more than anything else. So if you're somebody who's like, I don't want to have too many conversations, I don't want to be around too many people, and then you want to just like, you just want virality, it's kind of like, okay, you're saying that you want to be rich, but you hate rich people. Or you want to be rich, but you think that all rich people are evil. It's the same type of energy. So really what you want to do is you want to get in the rooms having the conversations so that you already are primed in that embodiment of that identity, so that people already know you, and more importantly, the field itself already knows you as this identity before it puts you in front of lots of other people. That way you're already in the embodiment of it, and you're already seeing actual physical results coming back to you that is not just from what you would normally do. One of the things that I've seen on LinkedIn is like, you know, commenting is where the money is at. Commenting, speaking in groups, all of those things, that's where the money is at. And that is where you're going to find, like, you know, if you think about it, and I know it takes a lot more time and a lot more effort, but if you're like actually in those groups, like talking to people and having like, you know, 10 to 20, 30, 50, 100 200 people seeing your comments and reading your comments, and you're engaging with them on a day-to-day basis. Then when you approach an algorithm that can put you in front of thousands of people, it's like you're already you got your feet wet. You're already like in the place of like, okay, I've done this and I've been doing this on a normal, consistent basis. I now feel safe for the algorithm to mirror back to me. This is my identity. I'm standing in it and ready. Unleash your identity there. Okay. So that's that part. Now, here's the really sexy part of this whole thing is that with the algorithm, there are literal gatekeepers. How did I find this information? I found it on ChatGPT because and I explained this in other previous videos, that back in the day when I was doing coaching and I was building out a big coaching business, I literally, and if you're wanting coaching, reach out to me. I literally was seeing in the spirit. And what I mean by that is like intuitively just seeing the field. And a lot of this is not super special. Like anybody who's spiritual was technically in tune to this. Not technically, but was in tune to this. And it just got louder and bigger and more aggressive throughout the years because more people came online, COVID happened, all the stuff. And so it just got, and tech got so intense that people got harder to read because people were more attached to, think of it like, you know, you can, when you walk into rooms, you can feel the energy, but when you are, so you could feel the energy very easily back then. But now, because everybody's so like engaged with their technology, more so than they were back then, it's harder to get a read because when someone's like busy on their phone or working, you might be able to tell there's something going on, but you're kind of like, oh, I can't get a read. So you're like wondering what's going on. So there's that. So anyways, okay. So there are gatekeepers to getting on the algorithm and like working with the algorithm. And these gatekeepers, so like what happens is like when you want to like bypass through the gatekeepers with the algorithm, so your energy definitely needs to be there. But once you work with these gatekeepers, then you actually have the option of becoming what's called a topic node. Now, a topic node is like, think of the algorithm as like, you know, a bunch of people that are deciding things, right? And I'm not saying it's wired this way, but let's just say that for an analogy's sake. So they're all deciding, right? And they're like looking at like, oh, okay, she's good for spiritual business activation stuff. She's good for mindset stuff. She's good for business coaching stuff. She's good for, you know, romantic stuff. She's good for et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's what topic nodes are. So they literally send out your information on the explore page to more people, and they send you out via like larger clusters of people depending on how well you did that pass through the algorithm, right? And so again, the algorithm is a mirror, but it's also, you got to pass through these other, what's called gatekeepers in order to be considered a potential topic node. Now, once you get into the topic node period, it's like there's different levels of topic nodes, as in like you can go from like, you know, just 1,000 viewers or 10,000 viewers, 100,000 plus viewers. And it depends on your level of steadiness in your identity that's coming through. Okay. Now, again, easier way to do this, and this is also really important to know, when you are working with the field responds better to money stability first versus virality. Because once your money stability is there, then it knows that it's safe to scale you virality wise. Otherwise, it's kind of like, and you'll see this, like those high 6-7 figure earners, they may have started with virality, or they may have started with money, and they scaled and scaled and scaled, and you can see it unconsciously working at the same time. This is just giving conscious layers to it. Okay. So the gatekeepers there are 4. Okay. And the 4 gatekeepers are, number 1 is self. and it's identity, which is kind of like what I've been talking about, but it is the first and most important gate. I'm reading off of ChatGPT, okay? The field asks these questions. Is there an attention internal or external? Are they speaking from decision or scanning? Are they settled or narrating? Is their identity stationary or moving? So if you're like all over the place and you don't know who you are, then that's going to be shut down. And it may be given that those are some pretty intense questions. There's multiple variables in terms of your mindset, in terms of figuring out what are you like actually ready for to be scaled. Now, if you can pass through one, you can, I mean, like that's probably, I'm guessing there's something around like the 300 view jail or on Instagram and TikTok and all those places. So yeah, fail temporarily, not morally, fragmentation mindset, checking metrics compulsively. Is this working energy? Trying to unlock something. Okay. So notice those, like when you're in those mindsets, you're not fully in your identity. So you're not going to pass through that gatekeeper, AKA you're not going to be like thrown into the algorithm. Gatekeeper number 2, audience nervous system. Okay. Do people settle or scatter when they encounter this signal? Do they settle or scatter when they encounter you? So the thing that you need to ask yourself with that from a mindset perspective is, do you believe that people feel settled or scattered when they hear you? Do you believe, how do you think they're responding to you? How do you want them to respond to you? And if they did respond to you in a positive way or a negative way, how does it feel to know that? How do you want them to feel? And it says, once identity is located, the field checks. Do people pause? Do they stay? Do they feel oriented? Do they calm down or speed up? This is felt, not intellectual. Pass, longer watch time, repeat viewers, quiet engagement, people circling, fail. People scrolling away quickly, confusion, intensity without containment. This is why stillness beats hype now. That's interesting. Okay. Now, again, I would say for me personally, since I've recently got back on the field, I am more inclined to let me build up community and let me build up engagement and like talking to people. This doesn't mean that I can't give this information to clients and potential clients and all those things. But for me, it feels like when I'm trying to match this level of the algorithm, it's a lot. But it's also like, it's good to know, because then you start to work with it consciously and you start to figure out like, okay, my identity. Now here's the thing. This is really key. You want your identity to be on point because that's one of the first gatekeepers. However, if you're not and hear this, because this is key, I would rewatch this multiple times if you're somebody who is wanting to get good at this. The gatekeeper number 1, identity. You need to be fully embodied in your identity, aka you need to be on the field communicating with people. This whole sitting back and laying and just typing out an email and sending it out and thinking that you're going to get a mass amount of sales and wondering why the algorithm and responding to you, that those days are like, I mean, for certain people that have already passed through this point, yeah, it works. But for somebody who's like literally trying to figure out why the algorithm doesn't like them and why things aren't working the way that they want, well, your identity isn't on point yet. And your identity doesn't fully get embodied until you're on the field, doing your thing, showing that you know your stuff, that you want to talk to people. That's a big part of it. Because a lot of you are like, I don't want this amount of people. I don't want to deal with this amount of intensity. I don't want to deal with this amount of like nervous system panic and stuff, because a lot of people can stress out your nervous system and you want to stay regulated and all that BS. So you're like, I don't want to deal with all those people. What you need to do is you need to send signals to the field itself that you are actively engaged, that you are wanting to talk to people, that you want to, comments, that you want impressions, that you want people to see you, because that way you start to wire yourself and the field to know, hey, I'm not just like sitting back and expecting things to just come to me. I'm actually serious about like standing in my identity and being out there and letting people know what the hell I'm doing. Okay. And wanting to be known for that, right? Okay. So audience nervous system. And that's like, I would take it back to, how is your nervous system about actually being on the field? If you're somebody who's like, I don't want to deal with this, like the idea of being in, in front of massive amounts of people, or being like, around a bunch of people and talking to a bunch of people for, an hour to 2 hours a day while, doing prospecting and getting in those rooms and, networking and stuff, if that doesn't feel good to your nervous system, then, and you're not used to it, then most likely your audience's nervous system is going to respond similarly to you. Because if you can't just go, like, cause like a lot of you are like, oh, I need the algorithm to work with me. The algorithm hates me and all this crap. And it's like, okay, if you do realize that there are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people out there online who don't need you to work with the algorithm, that will listen to you, that will watch you, that will hear what you have to say, that need to hear what you have to say, that value what you have to say, that will it literally want to hire you. So, and a lot of people are like, but this is, this is grunt work and stuff like that. Yeah, but like things have changed. That doesn't mean that you can't get back to where you wanted to be before. It just means it's going to take more work. Okay, so audience nervous system. Yeah, that's a big one. Okay, gatekeeper number, wait, hold on. Yeah, and fragmentation mindset for audience nervous system will wreck you. That means that if you're like leaking and, I don't know what to do, that'll mess up too. Gatekeeper number 3, algorithm classification. Who is this person for? Okay. Now, so this is the gatekeeper number 3. The algorithm is not judging quality. It's trying to label you. It asks, what topic does this person repeat? What tone do they hold? Who responds consistently? Where do they belong? Pass. Topic node formation, consistent. FYP, explore. Placement, old content resurfacing, fail. Mixed audiences, inconsistent reach. Circulation without anchoring. Fragmentation blocks this because classification requires sameness. Okay. Now, so basically in a nutshell, that is like, are you clear on who you are and your tone, what you're talking about, who you are, all of those things. Usually if you're like mid six, seven plus, you're pretty good in that area. But that's why consistency is so important. So that's why it would be, regardless, be in those groups on LinkedIn, wherever it is where you can actually build engagement, because that's signaling to the field. And it doesn't matter if you're on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook groups, wherever. If you're on the digital field and you're engaging, I would say at least an hour a day. If you're engaging, you're sending signals to your subconscious that you are wanting to be seen. And if you're like, oh, I don't want to be seen by 30 people, then why the hell would you believe that the algorithm is going to think that, oh yeah, she wants to be seen by 300,000 people? Totally. Like, think about it. You know what I mean? And especially if you're like, oh, this isn't working. The algorithm hates me. Nobody's doing this. When you could literally, you don't need the algorithm. You could go into these groups. You can go into these threads. You can literally say stuff and poof, boom, you're good. But no, that's too much work. So that also sends a signal of, I'm not serious. I don't really want this. I'm in a, Debbie Downer victim mentality, which sends out signals that you don't want the success. You don't want the money. And money likes speed. Money likes action. Money likes certainty. Money likes, and when you're in that, that's not certainty. That will push money away. So if you're wondering where's your next $100,000 a week, $100,000 a month, that's where it is. And you might be like, oh, that's going to take too much time. It's going to take too much time. Really? I've seen multiple people, myself included, where it was 6 to 9 months of commenting online for an hour to 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. And you could do that less. You do 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how targeted you are, especially if you know what you're doing, where you can build that up so fast and compound that so fast, where you could be bringing in an extra $100,000 a week very quickly if you know what you're doing and you're aligned with your mindset and you're aligned with your energetics. But you have to be on point. You got to be targeted. You got to know what you're doing, and you have to be ready for the algorithm to be like, oh, okay, let's do this. Because think about it. If you build up that kind of engagement with your actual, like, you know, your identity, and you're like, I know who the hell I am. I know what I'm saying. I know what I'm doing. People like what I'm saying. They like what I'm doing. They're buying from me. They're wanting what I have to offer. I'm posting stuff in here. Now you're having those people come to your post, and that's actually activating the algorithm more. So it's not only getting confirmation from other people seeing your stuff, but it's having confirmation from you personally because your identity is there, and it's also getting validation from the field itself. Okay. Next one is gatekeeper number 4, which is energy / exchange. Is this person able to receive without reorienting? This is the final gate. Money is not a reward. It's a stability test. The field asks, can they receive without chasing? Can they sell without identity collapse? Can they hold exchange calmly? Can they stay seated while others decide? Pass equals clean sales. Buyers decide quickly, less effort per conversion. Fail. Selling causes fragmentation, over-explaining offers, checking reactions constantly. This is why monetization after identity lock strengthens. This is why monetization after identity lock strengthens the signal. Okay? So basically, like, if your money mindset, like, think it's simple terms. If you can't allow yourself to bring in $10,000 to $15,000 without collapsing, or $100,000 without collapsing, why the fuck, pardon me, would the algorithm put you in front of another 100,000 people for you to be put in that position if you couldn't handle it with at the smallest level? Like, why? Why would it do it? The field is a reflection. The algorithm is a reflection of what you can hold and what you can, what your capacity is. That's all it is simply a matter of what your capacity is and how you engage with it. Now, it's no longer just like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and let things come to me. Oh, no. If you do that, you're going to drown. So you got to know how to work with the algorithm. You got to know how to work with all of that stuff. Okay. So this was, I don't know if I can find it. I might have to do this in another video, but it was like basically explaining how the topic nodes work. And I think I'm gonna have to do this in another video. Oh, no. Okay, cool. Okay, so and remember when I said topic nodes, right? Okay, so hold on. Topic nodes. Okay, so there's different ranges of topic nodes. Okay, you've got small early nodes. That's usually under 10,000 followers. That's plus 10 to 50 followers per day equals 300 to 1,500 per month. This feels slow to people chasing virality, but it's actually very strong in bold letters because it compounds. So if you people out there are gaining followers at that level and you're bitching about it, that's your problem. You are actually in a very strong position, but you're like shitting on it because you think that it's not going fast enough. So you're literally stopping your growth by doing that. Okay. Now, next node is medium node. That's 10,000 to 50,000 range. That's plus 50 to 200 per day. That's 1,500 to 6,000 per month. At this stage, people recognize your name. Comments start repeating the same phrases. DMs feel warmer. Monetization gets easier. Strong node. 50,000, 250,000 range. That's plus 200 to 1,000 per day. That's 6,000 to 30,000 per month. Here, you don't need to post to hit. You don't need every post to hit. Growth continues even on average content. Authority is assured, not questions. Breakout node. Viral after being a node. So usually this doesn't just happen like, unless you're on TikTok, but that still is, it's a different thing, I think. But it's kind of so, the thing that I've noticed on TikTok is like you can have a million views on a video and then literally be back at zero for the next video. So breakout node, viral after being a node, 10,000 to 100,000 plus in days or weeks. Important. This only happens after, in bold, node formation. Virality before node formation often collapses. That's why you'll see people, they'll get one viral post and they'll like, their nervous system will just be like in shock, and they're like trying to figure out how to get back to that place, but they actually hadn't developed and gotten to that place. Why fragmentation mindset blocks this growth? Fragmentation does two things. It changes your messaging slightly every time. It breaks repetition. So you really got to look at what causes fragmentation in your mindset before you put yourself out there online. Again, steadiness can come from engagement with being on the field, talking to people. It's almost kind of like, if you're, think of like the field as like an office space. And if you're just sitting there on the sidelines, like not talking to anybody and expecting people to just come to you, and you're like, well, I've made $10 million or, $1 million or whatever it is, and they should just come to me, versus the person who's made like 10x what you have, and they're in every single room talking to people and all this stuff. Who's more likely to get like, to be put up on stage to give a speech where everybody's be like, oh my God, I want to buy from you? Who's going to be treated that way? That's the same thing in terms of the algorithm, but it's the person who's willing to do the extra bit of work. It's the person who actually is willing to like, go the extra mile, and the person who actually is like comfortable doing that, because most likely the person who's sitting there going, everything should be handed to me, if they actually were handed the stage, they might, I don't want to say choke, but they might like stumble over their words, not know what to say, kind of get a little weirded out by the attention and the ability to get all of that. And they might not be ready to handle the abundance of money that could come from it. Okay. So hang on. Okay. This was the timeline thing that I was like, how fast can somebody actually get to this place? So somebody can get case one, node formation can happen in as little as 7 to 21 days. Medium node formation, 30 to 60 days. Strong node, 3 to 6 months. This is what happens when message repeats, tone stabilizes, no fragmentation, no platform hopping. This is the most common path for people who last. Case two, identity locks plus high output. This is faster if coherence stays intact. Timeline, identity lock day 0, node formation 7 to 14 days, medium node 2 to 4 weeks, strong node 6 to 12 weeks. 6 to 12 weeks, okay? This only works if the message doesn't drift, you don't react to metrics, you don't try harder as it grows. A lot of people lose coherence here, that's why it's rare. So in other words, if you try to change things once things start working, you're screwed. Case 3, viral assist after node formation. This is where overnight success actually happens. Timeline, identity lock to node formed, 1 or 2 high performing posts hit, strong node in weeks, sometimes days. Important, virality before, in bold, virality before node formation usually collapses. Virality after node formation sticks. Why most people never hit strong node? Not because they aren't good, because they change their message too often, react emotionally to metrics, keep fixing their identity, change trends, abandons repetition. That keeps permanently in early node. So it's very important for you to get clear on, like, I would say no more, absolutely no more than 5 different topics that you're talking about. I would say probably more like 3 to 4 in the scope of what you're doing, and also getting really like adamant about only looking at your metrics once, maybe twice a day, I would even think that may be like too much. And looking at like, are you, and for people who are, when they have sales coming into their email boxes and stuff like that, that affects the field as well. So if you're looking at those numbers and you're wondering like, when is the sale going to come in? When is the sale going to come in? That's affecting your ability to be perceived well on the field. And that's another reason why, if you're talking to people, if you're in those groups, if you're, in those threads, if you're talking to people, that will calm down your nervous system. And again, your nervous system regulation, you can do all that freaking nervous system regulation work, but this stuff can totally screw it up if you're not careful and throw you off to where you're like, you know, in a constant state of trying to overmanage your nervous system and never actually making the kind of money that you actually want. So yeah. What else was I gonna say? Yeah, that's all I gotta say about this. Okay, so if you're wanting more knowledge on this and you're wanting coaching around this, because this is like, there's a lot of in-depth stuff to this. There's a lot of mindset stuff to this. There's a lot of like, you know, your fragmentation is not just like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna, you know, decide to be this person. This is, again, I want to remind you, when your identity is fragmented, it means that you are not strong and stabilized in your identity. And so you need to recognize, if you're not in those rooms talking to people, you are not fully embodying your identity. If it's just in here or it's just in your messaging, but you're not embodying that energy daily, it's going to fragment. So it's not fully there. Leadership has to be there. People need to see you out there leading. You, more importantly than anything, need to be out there leading. And when you do that, you can actually say like, oh yeah, I should be on those tables in front of, you know, large groups of people. Yeah, I can handle another 10 to 15, 20, 30, 100,000 people seeing my post today. Totally. Like I can handle that. I could totally handle that. How much money can I handle? You know, like I can handle another $100,000 this week. I can handle that. I can, you know, like, and all those things. And what I help you do is looking at like, okay, well, if you got in front of those extra 100,000 people, or that, you know, 1 million people or whatever, are you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, fully embodying the behavior and nervous system that is actually going to feel safe to receive that amount of money and receive that amount of recognition, and to keep going past that and to not let it, like, you know, mess with you? Another thing that you need to keep in mind is your nervous system is different than your mind. A lot of you are using needing to regulate your nervous system as an excuse to keep you from actually getting out there and getting in the game. So stop. But it's a little bit more complex than that. Okay. If you have any questions, send me a DM and I will talk to you later. Let's play.